Hi guys, it's Jess from Honest Fiction and welcome back to my channel. So it is almost fall, which means it is almost spooky season, my favorite time of year. So today I'm going to be recommending my favorite spooky, disturbing, and unsettling books. Alright guys, so there are 6 books on this list and I will be giving a brief spoiler-free synopsis for each of them. Also why I just think they're perfect for fall and the spooky season. If you are unfamiliar with my channel, please like and subscribe. I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. And if you haven't yet, please hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram. It is linked down in the description below. You can help choose my TBR, do polls, and a lot of fun stuff with my stories, so please check that out. With that being said, let's get into these spooky recommendations. All right, so the first book on this list is a young adult novel, and I was just blown away by how creepy and eerie it was. And that is The House of Salt and Sorrow, and this is by Erin A. Craig. This is a 12 Dancing Princesses retelling. I am not familiar with that tale, so I can't tell you how accurate or how much of that is actually referenced in here. But it follows Anna Leigh, and she is one of 12 sisters. However, her sisters all just keep ending up being killed or dying in these tragic accidents, so everyone feels that her family is cursed. And on top of that, they live in this old abandoned manor that's I think on an island, and there's a lot of it's just all very gray, and the imagery is done very well. So Anna Leigh and her sisters every night have been sneaking out to these very festive and over-the-top balls, but they're also being plagued by these creepy images, and it's just edge of your seat horror throughout the ending of this book. I was not expecting this book to take the twists and turns it took. I don't know what I was expecting. This very much is a book that you want to read with all the lights out and a candle lit. It is just so creepy and I really enjoyed it. It was so good. Highly recommend picking this up. Also, this reminds me a lot of a ghost horror movie where you can see things in corners and stuff like that. Very reminiscent of that. But I highly suggest reading this fall. Next up, I'm first going to just talk about an author. So if you want disturbing imagery and that is something you really enjoy, Grady Hendrix is your guy. All of his books, the imagery is just horrifying and disgusting, and it just stays in your mind forever. It is just so gross. Some people like that. I kind of like that, which is why I really enjoyed Horrorstor. This book, I have a reading vlog where I read it and I'm just going crazy about it, so I'll leave that linked in the description and in the cards. Follows a girl who's working in retail, and the store is essentially IKEA, but they call it Borsk, and someone keeps vandalizing the store at night. So her manager asks her if she'll spend the night with a few other people to see if they can figure out what's going on. And then everything gets crazy at night. There is seances, and it's just insane what happens in this book. I loved this so much. I read this for Summerween this summer. So good. Highly recommend. It's a very quick read. Also, so this is kind of pricey, but the book itself has some beautiful, not beautiful, but very descriptive pictures in it. It has pictures of all the different Borsk items, and a lot of the Borsk items do play a part in the novel, so it really helps you visualize the scenes. But also, the audiobook is so good. I actually looked through this while I was listening to the audiobook. So if you're someone like me that really wants an immersive experience, I would do both. But overall, I really enjoyed this book, and it is the perfect spooky, disturbing read. The next 2 books on this list both feature haunted houses. The first one I really enjoyed, and that is Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And this follows Naomi, who is living in Mexico City when she receives a frantic letter from her cousin who has just married this mysterious guy and moved across the country in this old dilapidated manor. So she decides to go and see what's going on, why her cousin is begging to come home. And her cousin is not acting normal. Her cousin says that she doesn't remember writing a letter, everything's fine, and it goes from there. It's really Naomi trying to figure out this mystery surrounding this house and the guy her cousin married, and it is so good. The ending of this book is so dark and kind of disgusting, but also keeps you so invested in the story. I don't know. This is one of the first horror books I read in a really long time, and I think it's the perfect Gothic horror just because it keeps you always very uncomfortable. And the pacing, it's very fast paced, and you're just unsettled the entire time you're reading it. And then you get to the end, and it's just, what is going on? And it is just so, so good. I'm sorry, I feel like that was a very chaotic summary of my thoughts, but I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was very well done. It's gonna keep you just feeling just creeped out throughout the entire time you're reading it, which is what you want from a really good horror book. So I highly recommend checking out Mexican Gothic. And the next haunted house book is actually by one of my absolute favorite thriller authors, and that is Riley Sager, Home Before Dark. So this is the first Riley Sager book I ever read, and obviously I loved it. I continued reading pretty much all of his backlist. But Home Before Dark follows a girl who, when she is younger, her family leaves their home because they believe it is cursed or haunted, and the father ends up writing a novel about their haunted house. So then we jump to present day. The young girl, I believe her name is Maggie, is all grown up, and she wants to go back to the house to figure out if it was actually haunted and what really happened there. And it was really good. This is more of a twisty mystery type haunted house story. There are some like ghost and creepy elements, but for the most part, you're just on the edge of your seat, wanting to know, is this house really haunted? Did these things really happen to her? And I very much enjoyed it. It was a very fun time. And the last two books on this list are both witchy books. The first one is House of Hollow, and this is by Krystal Sutherland. I just recently read this. It's in my August wrap-up, which I will leave linked down in the description. But this follows three sisters, and when they were younger, all three of them disappeared, and they were gone for a few months. Then, magically, they returned, not having any memory of what took place. They also have white hair, and they all have scars by their necks, and they're all just seem a little bit different from when they left. So we jump, I believe, 3 or 4 years, 5 years, and the girls are all they're all out of high school except for the main character, Iris, and they're just trying to live normal lives, although they all kind of realize they have power over people. And one day, the eldest sister goes missing, and the two younger sisters have to figure out what happened to her. Is she in the same place she was when she disappeared those years ago, or what? So it goes from there. Also, a lot of disturbing imagery in this, very creepy, pacing a little bit slower than previous books. It did take a little while for me to get invested, but once I did, so good, so eerie, and it's a pretty quick read. I also really was not expecting the amount of disturbing imagery based off the cover. When I picked this up, I thought this was just gonna be like a cute little book, but oh my gosh, it can be really gross and just really, really disgusting. So highly, highly recommend reading this during the spooky season. And last up, we have Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. So this story revolves around this colony that is led by the prophet and is just super patriarchal and terrible. And Emmanuel is just this girl who is very submissive and trying to just live out her life, be a good girl, worship the prophet. Unfortunately, Emmanuel's mother had a dalliance with a guy from outside of this colony who is a different race, so her entire family is really looked down upon. And then Emmanuel gets a book that might have been her mother's, and she starts to realize that she might have power inside of her, and she might be able to go up against the prophet, against these rules, and break out of this submissive life. And it goes from there. I really enjoyed this. This was like the perfect witchy, creepy feminist book that I needed, and it was great. And it also had some great horror elements, and I just really enjoyed watching Emmanuel stick it to the patriarchy and the prophet, and it was great. I really enjoyed the ending of this book, so highly suggest picking this up. Alright guys, that is it. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please let me know in the comments below, what is your favorite spooky, disturbing read? I love reading scary books in the fall. I feel like it's the perfect time, so I need more on my TBR. And I said this already, but I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday, and I will see you all next week. Bye.